Hi and welcome to Siska Stitches. In today's video, I'll be showing us how to make this ruffle off-shoulder sleeve. It is super easy. You can actually decide to make it fitted around your shoulders, or you have the option to make it drop on your arm. So the difference between the two is actually the length that you are going to make it to. So what I have here is a long piece of scuba fabric. I've joined pieces of fabric together to make up to 3 times my round shoulder measurement. So I measured my round shoulder measurement to be fitted around my body. So place the tape rule around your shoulder and measure. I measured mine to be 45 inches and I cut this piece of fabric to be 3 times that measurement. The reason why, because we are trying to make something that is going to be ruffled. For scuba fabric, you do not need to hem the edges because they do not fray easily. But if you are working with a fabric that frays easily or that is light, I will advise you to add fusible interfacing to it to make it a little bit stiff, and then make sure you line it, okay, so that everywhere is actually covered and sewn up before we go ahead and do the ruffle part. So here is the length of what I have, and what I'm going to do at this point is to take this to my sewing machine, and I'm going to be running a gathered stitch from the beginning all the way to the end of this fabric. And I want to advise that if you decide that you want to work with scuba fabric, make sure that you pull your fabric while you are sewing, because if you do not do that, you will not be able to pull the thread that will help to gather your fabric in place. So for this type of ruffled sleeve, you can decide to go with gathers or you can decide to go with pleats. But gathers is actually the easiest way to make this type of ruffled sleeve. So the width of my fabric is about 5.5 inches, which is perfect for this type of off-shoulder ruffle sleeve. If you want to have it longer, that is definitely an option. And if you want to run your gathered stitch, you need to make sure that your needle or where you are going to be sewing through is in the midpoint of the fabric that you have here. So since my fabric is measuring 5.5 inches, I'm going to place it at 2.75 inches, which is the midpoint of 5.5 inches. And then I'll begin to sew. So you're not going to do any back and forth for this. You are just going to keep running your stitch. So after running the gathered stitch, I'm going to begin to pull my thread like this, okay? And you have to be gentle when pulling your thread so that it doesn't cut. And I'm going to gather this to my round shoulder measurement, which is 45 inches. So after gathering, this is what my fabric looks like. Now I want to advise that if you're pulling your gathering thread or your basting thread, make sure you pull the thread where the wrong side of the fabric is, because as you can see, the ruffles on this wrong side looks a little different than the ruffles on the right side. Meanwhile, another thing you will notice is the stitch area where you ran the gathered stitch, okay? But on the right side, you won't really see. When you finish pulling your gathered stitch, make sure to get a hand needle and thread, okay? I just grabbed the nearest one closest to me and run another stitch through the ruffles just to properly secure it, so that should in case the gathered stitch comes undone, you have reinforcements that will not pull apart your ruffles. So just go ahead and do that. If you went with the option of using a hand needle to create your ruffles, that's to create your gathered stitch, that is definitely awesome. You would not need to use a hand needle to actually reinforce it, because threaded needle like this, the threads are, doubled and they are quite stronger than your machine stitches. Just one tip to mention to you guys: instead of using 3 times your round shoulder measurement, make sure to use about 4 times in order for you to get a lot of ruffles from your fabric. So after gathering, this is what I have. I'll go on to place it on my mannequin so you guys can see the full effect in full view. So here is how our off-shoulder ruffle sleeve looks like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, kindly give us a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, turn on the bell so you get updates when I post new videos, and I'll be seeing you guys in my next tutorial. Bye!